All right, g'day everyone. We're back for another hashtag Ask Jim. We're up to episode number 81, and we're via Zoom this week. So hopefully we've got no issues. We'll see all your comments and your questions. So make sure you put them in there, guys, and let us know you're here. That'd be great. Just put them in there as early as you can to get them to as well. So Jim, you've obviously been very, very busy this week. You've been a national celebrity, more so than you normally are, with Sunrise and Today, which was yesterday.
Yeah, lots of publicity on that one. My inbox went Burko. It's about 90 to 95% favourable. Some people didn't like what I said very much.
But 95%, as you said, overall.
Oh, the Premier is such a nice man. He's so consultative and honourable and just trying to do his best for everybody. Oh, yeah, that's right.
No, but that's great. But 95%'s been overwhelmingly positive. So let's run through a few things first. So there's been a couple of ideas you've been floating during the week, which has been some T-shirts. Maybe do you want to talk about the T-shirts and put it to the audience regarding that?
Yeah, well, this lady has come up with this idea of putting T-shirts out and wants to use our logo. We won't do it ourselves. We'll do it for her. Probably sell them for $10. And hopefully a couple of bucks can go towards helping some of the franchisees that have been really badly hurt. But we're looking for themes, like somebody mentioned Jim's Premier removal. We just want you to come up with some ideas about what you think should go on a T-shirt that would actually express what we're doing at the moment.
I think, Jim's no risk to infection. That was another one you had. Put them in the comments, guys, there. So what would you want to do on a shirt? And they won't be that much at all. And if they usually like it, we'll let people know. So Jim's Premier removal is one. Jim's no risk to infection as well. What was the other ones as well? Jim's let them go back to work. I don't know. Put your ideas in there, people, and we'll see what we can happen is. All right, so we've got these questions coming in now, which is fantastic, and I can see them this week. So Dave McDonald says, ahoy, hoy, in a Mr. Burns voice. Okay, then Milkshake. That's his name is gone. So we got Milkshake's gone here. G'day, Jim. Why do you think you're above the law? So a tough one to start off with.
No, I'm not actually. Our franchisees are obeying the law precisely. They're staying home. I just think the law is wrong, which is a different thing entirely. That'd be like if you lived in a country where, say, capital punishment was allowed, even for minor crimes. Would you think it was wrong? And if so, is anything wrong with that? You can disagree with the law without breaking it.
And then we go there, and Luke Jurgens is tuning, which is fantastic. So Lukey Colbrick's gone, question, coffee van being the new Jim's idea. What's in the pipeline that hasn't started yet? It's a good question mark. They must have seen Jim's Mobile Cafe or the ads online. Well,
Jim's Security Doors is about to launch again. We've had that in the past. Jim's Floors is also one we've had in the past. It's coming back shortly.
Jim's Roofing. Jim's Heating, yeah. Jim's Roofing, yeah.
We always try and if something goes and we know it works, we try and bring it back when we find the right people to run it. So there's a few going on. I get it all the time.
And Jim's Mobile Cafe is getting a lot of interest. It's a good one for someone who might like that type of stuff, and Eric's doing really well.
Yes, he is. He's making well before the crackdown. He was making very good money actually. It worked out a good system, so we're really ready to go on that one. We could fit 20 in Melbourne easy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Many more interstate.
And Peter Percy, which is fantastic. So Eric's tuned in as well. He's gone, hey guys, great work this week, Jim, with all the media. Glad you practice all those book signings now that you will be even more famous.
Yeah, people keep on wanting me to stand for politics and stuff. No way. That's a dirty game, that one.
I was going to say, you've been getting out a bit more in the press, but now it's pretty much big celebrity status now, I guess, with the two major ones this week. And you've been on there probably 4 times, I reckon, which is not very common at all.
Yeah, well, I'm basically a spokesman for a lot of businesses, and people have got to stand up for it. I mean, who else is going to speak for small traders, like mowers and cleaners and pool care people and dog wash and so forth? Who can speak for such people? They don't have powerful lobbyists. So I'm the voice, and we've made it very clear that what we're doing is for everybody. We just think it's unfair. We're not telling people to break the law. We're just saying when you've got a clear case where a sole trader operator working alone is not a danger infection, you shouldn't be shut down, especially when you've got council workers who are working in groups doing the same job. It's just not right. It's not right. We're not reducing the risk of infection one bit, but you are increasing the risk of all kinds of mental illnesses and suicide and all sorts of things when you shut people down for no reason. So that's we're just trying to make that point, and hopefully the Premier does seem to be listening a little bit, which certainly you can't talk. Nobody can normally get through to the Premier in any way. Even members of his own party can't speak to him. He's a very, very hard guy to reach.
What about the revelation today that the lockdown was not on the advice of the chief health officer? And he's come out and said that today. That blows up a bit online.
Yeah, well, you hear what national health people like the Prime Minister and are saying too. I mean, what we've done in Victoria is outrageous. It's causing far more damage than it's helping.
Now we've got a few questions and comments coming in, which is fantastic. So we've got 100 people tuning, so make sure you leave your questions and comments, guys. Wendy writes, got any Jim's Liberty? Then Dave McDonald says, Jim's anti-dictator movement. I've seen that coming along a lot online, though.
Jim's anti-dictators. That's
Jim's then Tracy Lambert, vote one, Jim. We're getting a lot of those. Then Steve Beck, here's a genuine question we haven't had for a while. Hi, Jim. What would be the best stump poison to kill stumps? I don't know. Did you have to kill stumps back in the day?
I think the only time I've ever used it, I used something like hydrochloric acid or something like that. But I'm sorry, I'm not really an expert these days in such things. I never really liked poisons very much. I was always I dug things manually. In fact, on my farm now, we don't use any poisons, any pesticides, anything. It's all totally organic. So I never liked them because there's always a danger it's going to get into your system, this kind of thing.
Were you able to buy hydrochloric acid? I don't even know if you could do that now.
I seem to remember that's what I used. One time I had a stump that I had to try and kill, but yeah, I wouldn't know. Just go into the shop and ask them. I guess they probably know more than I do.
I'll talk to a franchisee or franchisor, Steve. I think if you're a franchisee, they will know best as well. Then Wendy Wright's gone, is Jim the Liberator? There we go, calling you Liberator as well. And Daniel Sulix can't stand the Premier. Okay, Daniel Sulix has gone, do you do Jim's roller shutters? Question mark.
Actually, the roller doors is one that failed, as a matter of fact. It's very sad. We just couldn't get enough work to keep the people busy. So what we did is we transferred them to other divisions. So nobody lost their franchise, but it just wasn't enough work.
Then Andy, I think people are liking the Jim's Premier removal for the shirt design. We've got that comment coming in there now from Andy and from Sean as well. Jim's Premier removals, they love it. So that might be the shirt. So that might be the one to go. And then Luke Jurgens might be a very busy service if that one gets up and going. Then Luke Jurgens gone, Jim, I was talking the other day with another gardening contractor the other day, and we're talking about Jim's Plus. And he talked to me that he was only paying around $10 for a lead, but myself as a mowing franchisee, I'm paying around $18 for a lead. Wouldn't it be better if the Jim's guys paid less than the Jim's Plus as we pay franchise fees? And a Jim's Plus user doesn't. Tough question, Luke.
Yeah, well, look, it's been set up now. The guy's out of date. We did charge less in the past. Now we make sure that every Jim's Plus person pays at least the same amount. And what will actually happen is we're setting up a bidding system, which is operating to some extent so that instead of going to the person with the highest rating, above a certain level, it goes to the highest bid. So in some areas like antennas, it's pushed up the value of the lead over many times over what Jim's guys pays. And that's going to be more of the case. As we get more independent contractors on, they'll start to compete for jobs and they'll bid up the price. And so instead of you paying $18, somebody will pay $30 or $35. And because the idea of that, of course, is that after you've got a great operator who's paying this ridiculous price, then you go to them and say, listen, why don't you become part of Jim's and you only pay this much and you get priority over everybody else. So that's the idea.
I think you're in mowing now, Luke, which is Eric's son, I think. So you're one of the three, dog wash, mobile coffee, and now mowing. So I think that's old information, Luke, as well. As Jim said, it's definitely not the case anymore.
We've checked it out. There isn't anybody in Jim's Plus paying less than a Jim's guy. And I would hope with time, over the next few months, they'll pay a lot more.
Now, Luke at Colebrook's gone, so we have a Hello Fresh and a few other dinners ideas. Will Jim's be doing a range? So we do have Jim's Home Fresh, Lukey. And I think Jim's Home Fresh, I don't know if they do the meal ideas, but I know they have all the great ingredients that you can do. But it's probably something you should check out on their website, I reckon. Jim's Home Fresh.
I think they're going to do recipes, actually.
They are. Well, there we go. So they're working on that, Lukey. So keep an eye out for Jim's Home Fresh. We'll announce it when they do. But they're really, really good. Check out their website. Then Christina Levrodis has gone here. You're a legend, Jim. Keep up the good fights. We got a lot of that coming through. And Paul Evans has gone, world economic collapse. And I know Paul Evans has been forwarding through a lot of mowing guys for the council photos too. But he's predicting a world economic collapse. I don't know about you, Jim, or what are you thinking?
Not out of this. We'll get over it. We'll get past it. I mean, most of the world is through the worst and recovering, at least this more of the first world countries. So it's going to be a bad time. But I mean, let's face it. I mean, it's bad, but we're in a recession. But it's not like it's 50% unemployment. So it's something like 15% or something like that. So it's bad. But we can, governments can borrow money, a lot of money these days quite cheaply. So that's what's going to happen. We're just going to mortgage ourselves for future generations. I do think we've overdone the reaction, especially in Victoria. I think the damage that it's caused is not worth the infections. Saving infections, but anyway, that's what the people want. I guess that's what's going to happen.
Now, Wade Aston's tuning says, evening, Chancellor. G'day, Wade. Put some questions in there, which is fantastic. Now, Jeff Lees has gone, let's get gymmed, covering Victoria as one of the shirt slogans. Let's get gymmed, covering Victoria. Not a bad one. That's a good original one. Then Sue Small's gone here, Jim, Joel, I can reach Professor Allen. So I don't know Professor Allen's, but Sue, I think Sue's one offering to do the shirts. So Sue, we've got some shirt ideas and we'll be in contact tomorrow regarding that as well. Then Paul Stoney's gone here. Getting the lawn cut is a health issue. This time of year, the grass grows fast. Not being able to cut the lawn for 3 months, we'll see very long grass and rats running everywhere. From Paul Stoney.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, one of the weird things about this is that it's all based on essential need. So apparently, it's absolutely essential. The Premier has an absolutely immaculate lawn because that's essential to public safety. But of course, the pensioner can have knee-high grass with rats running around, and that's not important at all. So, who defines essential need? Certainly not the health department, that's for sure. Absolutely.
Then Sue Small's gone Professor Allen, and then John Naran's gone, I vote for Jim as Premier. We're getting a lot of that as well. Then Jeff's gone diesel sump oil. That might be regarding the thing before. Now,
yeah, sure.
Ben Wilson's gone, the fact that you can call down a dictator and not be thrown in the gulag shows most don't know what a dictator is. That's from Ben Wilson on one of the feeds.
Well, it's true in a way. I mean, obviously, we're not quite in a situation of being in China or Russia or somewhere, but it's not as good as you think. I mean, just for example, when I spoke up on the originally about this issue, the police commissioner was ordered, basically told everybody, target Jim's mowing. In other words, let's get Jim back. And what's interesting too is this business of compensation. That's something we're going to post on the Facebook Live. We've got this advice about how to go compensation, and you can apply to the government for compensation, which under the law you should be entitled to. But when they knock it back, which of course they will, you've got to appeal to VCAT. Now, you would think VCAT's part of the judiciary, but from what I've been told, the state government completely controls that, and they can actually put enough pressure on these guys to knock back all appeals. So, I mean, it's gone a long way. We're not a dictatorship. One big reason, of course, is that we've got a free media. But apart from that, we're pretty much an elective dictatorship. I mean, people vote for Putin in Russia. That's what people don't realize. It's not actually a dictatorship as such, but you elect somebody and they stay in power. The big difference is there, the media is cowed, and here it's quite bold.
Well, over there, if you talk to Russians, I've been to Russia, they actually, a lot of them like Putin, very strong. They like a strong man over there, a strong, forceful leader taking it up to the West. So it's actually quite popular.
But when you shut down or poison the opposition and control the media, it's not hard to have a... You're quite right. I wouldn't get much of a go in Russia if I was trying to do the same thing. The police would be knocking on my door saying, okay, Jim, come with us.
Then off to the gulag. Gulag's in Siberia. Away you go. Then Damien Don says, if they are open to then burn the stumps with the wood you cut down, just do it safe in a 44-gallon drum. So that's from David to Steve as well. And then Paul Evans is saying GFC times 10,000. Well, let's hope not, Paul. That's the case. Now, Kat Swinton's gone here. We can't hide from dying. It's a part of life, and this is a bad flu season. Being immune compromised, I can't wear a mask, but constantly get the go, catch COVID and die, even though I'm one of the vulnerable people that apparently needs saving. Discriminated against in shops is getting ridiculous. Jim's coffee sounds all right too.
Yes, it's very hard. I mean, look, for most of us, I think mask is a very minor thing. Obviously, if you can't wear them, you can't. But I mean, if it slightly reduces the risk of infection and doesn't cost anybody their jobs, I think you've just got to be careful about how many people you throw out of work, because that has terrible consequences.
Yeah, and we've put it, and we've put a lot of stories and stuff up as well during the week and last week as well. So make sure, guys, you check on that. And we're going to put up the advice straight after this. I'm going to stay up late and make sure I post that where you can do the compensation and you can download all those forms, because you went and got that, paid that off your own bat, didn't you, Jim? That legal advice.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be available for everyone. Matthew Dwyer's got any wood blackberry poison from Bunnings is $25. Drill the tree and fill. So that's from Matt Dwyer giving advice there as well. Now, Wendy Wright's gone, start a Jim's exercise group with the freedom slogan. We can all wear the T-shirts to do our 1 hour exercise in a public place.
Yeah, well, I don't know you're allowed to do it in a public place. You have to do it over Zoom or something. But
I'll tell you to be rich. I walked the girlfriend's dog in the Richmond Dog Park over here. And I can tell you what, there's groups of 8 people sitting close together, and it's right next to a police station. And you had the whole park filled with people within close vicinity. It was quite rich.
Well, of course, if you wanted to get really close to people in big numbers, all you got to do is to carry a few placards saying Black Lives Matter, and then thousands is okay, cheap by jail, no problem at all. You just got to carry the right slogans. That's all. That's the method.
That's true. Then Luke O'Carroll's going, hey, Jim, loving you. You're sticking it to Dictator Dan. More importantly, though, how is the epigenetic drug coming along? I think a lot of people would love to know the latest update on that. All the best.
Well, we've got some great experiments going, actually, and by the middle of next year, we hope to have some very strong results. We're testing a lot of things. We're testing cytokines, hormones, microbiome, pheromones, microDNA, microRNA, all kinds of stuff to see if ways we can do this, and we're going to test to see whether these mental health benefits that we're looking for. That's
really exciting stuff. So keep that updated. We'll post some stuff when that comes out. And then as well, we're going on here, Wendy White on our own course with matching face masks. Dave McDonald, if every country is in debt, who do we owe the money to? The Neptunians, from Dave McDonald.
Oh, well, it's individuals who own the money. Individuals and companies are the ones that lend it to the governments. So the governments are in debt, but the people are. I mean, one of the strange things about the modern world is there's a huge amount of investment money sloshing around looking for a place to go. And there's not so many good investments because the interest rates are so low, but which is also why the stock market's bid up to a ridiculous degree despite the crisis, because what else do you do with money? People have got money, they've got to do something with it. So that's what they're doing. Even in some countries, it's negative. You lend the country $1 million and you'll get back $998,000, something like that, which is ridiculous.
And then Kat Swin's got a Jim's personal training t-shirt. Well, we do have a Jim's personal training division there, Kat. So that is a shirt that actually exists. And we've got a few more questions here as well. We've got Hadar tuning, which is fantastic. Okay, Christian's gone, I've seen council workers constantly in Point Cook, and I don't see why the Premier won't allow sole traders to work. It makes absolutely no sense. And I have a feeling the Premier isn't too sure about what he's doing either.
Sorry, I think he probably does. I think it's a very simple thing. Sole operators, independent minded, probably vote Liberal, council workers, member of a strong union, give lots of money to the Labor Party. I mean, he knows what he's doing. The Premier is, how can I say it? He's not being competent at handling the crisis, but he's no fool. He's a very, very, very cunning politician. Which is one reason that I say if there's enough resistance to this lockdown, he'll change his tune pretty fast, because the one thing he's going to look after, I mean, health and mental health, that can go by the wayside, but the personal welfare of the Premier, that will be top of mind for him, and he'll do whatever he needs to make himself look good.
Well, this lockdown thing's getting a bit of traction online today. As that revelation come out that it wasn't the chief medical officer's advice at all. It was I think his parties or whoever he was advising him. So it was nothing to do with them. And he's grabbing a lot of heat online at the moment, actually, for that, about the lockdown. People are saying for the lockdown to be removed ASAP.
There's no rationality behind what they've done. There's no clear health. They actually refuse to say what the health benefits are or why we've shut down certain things and not others. Because if you ever actually knew the reason, you'd see politics all the way through. Health is just nowhere to be seen.
And Bill Wilson's gone, the guy running against Putin has just been poisoned, but sure, Russia and Australia are the same. Well, that's a good point, Ben, and Jim didn't mention that, so we're just catching up there as well.
Yeah, I did too. Look, yeah. I think the point is this. No, we're not as bad as Russia. We're absolutely not as bad as, but we have never been as close. We've never had a situation where governments in Australia have had such arbitrary power. So yes, we're heading in the direction of Russia. I think it's very important that we don't go the full way. That's my concern. Not that we're there already. We aren't. As I said, we've got a free media. We don't poison. I haven't been poisoned by the government. We're not there yet, but we're moving in that direction. And the degree of arbitrary power that the Premier has, that he can change anything by his whim, and nobody can stop him. Nobody can hold him to account. That's a very alarming trend.
I'd love to know the people who he's getting advice from. I just don't know these experts. There's no transparency in data and stuff, and they put up a really simple graphic, which is supposed to represent all this mountains of data. And he was getting questions today about, well, won't the data change if you've got better contract tracing? Won't the projections change? And he can't answer the questions. Then Jenny Evans gone, when are you opening up dog wash again? Well, from Jenny, I don't know, until maybe the 28th, hopefully. I don't know. Dog wash, would that come under?
Well, the trouble is the guidelines are so vague Dog salons are not till sometime in October, supposedly. But don't forget, the Premier can change this anytime he likes. There's no guidelines as to exactly what can kind of. But we would think mobile dog wash probably from the 28th. But who knows?
There's going to be a lot of overgrown dogs there. I know that from talking to some dog wash franchisees that a lot of their clients are taking pictures off their dogs saying, let's say, Billy misses you or getting out of control. So hopefully the dog wash can start up straight away. Then Jason Pollock says, would love a mobile cafe on the New South Wales Central Coast. I think that would do very well. Absolutely, Jason. We need them everywhere.
It's actually an extremely good business. I think Eric might tell me, I think he was making like $4,000 a week before the lockdown. It was a very, very good business, and it's a great business. Eric's a very sociable guy, so he loves talking to people, and he has his regulars and stuff, and he's built I think it's a if anybody's seen the vans, they look brilliant with the orange and the black stripes and stuff.
It definitely stands out, that van.
It's a great business. We think it's quite exciting, actually. I believe there'll be hundreds of these one day.
We hope so. Then Gary Hertog's gone, new franchise idea, Jim's government training premiers. You elect them, we'll correct them. That's the slogan.
I wish I could.
Very good one there, Gary. Well done. If I could post out books to you, Gary, you'd be a fair chance, I reckon. But I can't. Then Kirk Wells has gone, no free media in Australia anymore, from Kirk Wells. Then we've got Paul Stoney's gone here. One of the team that developed Dan's modelling has come out and said Dan is using the wrong info into it. He's putting in info that they contact 25% of infected people in 24 hours. This is what was happening when it got out of control. Now the contract tracing is improved. The numbers are very different. If you feed in the new numbers, the restrictions will come off a lot quicker, and the numbers they need to get down are a lot more. Another day, another stuff up from the dictator.
Yes. Differences of opinion.
Yeah, that was put to him today, Paul. I don't know if you watched the press conference, but I'm watching him every day, and that was put to him today, and he basically didn't answer the question when that was put to him from the journalist, Paul. So he's completely spot on as well. Then John Render's gone, what was the difference in lockdown between us and New Zealand? Question mark from John. Hope you're well.
New Zealand locked down for a month, including gardening contractors. But one of the differences is that they locked down everybody. They didn't have council gardeners doing things in groups. Everybody was locked down for 4 weeks. But we're talking about a much longer period, a minimum of 8 weeks, when it's very, very obviously the difference. You know, council gardeners, yes, okay, fine, groups, anything up, no trouble. Private operators, not. In New Zealand, they were more fair. They were more even-handed. And I have a lot of respect for what Jacinda Ardern did. I don't think it's a matter of Liberal versus Labor. You've got a fairly competent and reasonably humane and consistent government as compared with one that's very, very arbitrary and driven by politics rather than health.
Thanks for that comment, John. So keep putting your comments and questions there. 100 people watching, which is fantastic. Then Luke Jurgens replied to John, says, John, they ended theirs when they said they would, unlike Dan, who isn't sure when he'll end ours or end it.
Yeah, look, we could well be off until Christmas. There's no doubt at all. I don't think the Premier would mind one little scrap if 20,000 people go broke, because as far as he's concerned, that's great. They all go on the dole, which is, you know, dependent on the government, more likely to vote Labor, or they go and work for large corporations and again become unionised. So from his point of view, it's not really a loss if small businesses are wiped out.
It's quite concerning, isn't it? Then Jan Dupay's gone. Daniel Andrews said that on Sunday, the following under the second step in metropolitan Melbourne will get more people back to work. Some 100,000 workers across construction, manufacturing and landscape garden and maintenance workers who operate alone. The statement says operate alone. Does it mean teams of 2 people cannot travel together or operate the same garden? Is there a way to confirm this point, which is critical to many mowing franchisees?
The way I understand it, operate alone will be it. Unless you work for the council, but yes, which is going to be hard, and it means a lot of people that can't be employed. But most of our franchisees are actually lone operators, or if not, they could actually have a separate vehicle going around and doing different lawns. So if you had a worker, you could say, you do that property, I'll do this property. So hopefully we'll be able to get most of our people back to work. But the main thing is my franchisees are out there making a living. Honestly, I mean, I don't like to see anybody lose their job, but my franchisees are my top priority.
Thanks for that comment there, Jan. And Paul Stoney's gone, go back to 2009 and look up when Dan was health minister. He got caught fudging the data, and if you read through, you will find he uses all the same excuses, lines, etc. As now it's his game plan. Doesn't surprise me. Then Chris Mains has gone, Jim, what do you think the Premier's end goal of all of this scheming you accuse him of? What does he have to gain by people disliking him? ? Question mark.
Oh no, I think he's got. No, he is guided by public. If the majority of people turned against the, I told you he's a very clever politician. If the majority of people turned against him, then he would free the economy up, and we are moving in that direction. It's more and more every week. You can see it happening. But the point of it is really that these restrictions are not fair. They're applied based on politics. I mean, I would say that if you're going to put restrictions in, the real important thing is how likely is this to cause somebody to be infected? Now, instead of the question is how much does this particular group of people contribute to Labor Party coffers? Who's likely to vote for me at the next election and who's not? I mean, how do you which do you go by? Now, the Premier says it should be politics. I say no, it should be health. And we should be looking at the maximum benefit of the community, not on the maximum political benefit of the Premier. How can you possibly argue? How can anybody possibly say why council workers in groups are allowed to do the same job that privateers cannot? There is no possible health reason for that. It is politics, politics, politics. And if you want a person to govern politically, then he's your man. But if you want someone to preserve the community's health, well, he's a pathetically bad leader.
And Frank's going from Home Fresh Mobile Cafe is a very professional setup. Absolutely, the vans are awesome and they're fitted out. And if you do see Eric go for a coffee, then Paul Stoney's gone, if the postman can deliver the mail, then Jim's mowing can cut the lawns, which is a good point.
Yes. In actual fact, they're probably even safer because the postman's got to touch letters, and if he gets it, somebody else get it from the letters. Whereas we don't touch anything. It's probably the safest job in the country. It's probably a lot safer than most white-collar jobs because by the nature of it, we're outside all the time alone. It's an incredibly safe job. There's far, far, far more chance of getting infected by being out of work and going for a walk or a jog or go to the shops or go to the bottle shop than there would be mowing a lawn. And that's what's so ridiculous about it. This terrible suffering and hurt that's inflicted and the giant hole taken out of the Victorian economy is zero benefit in terms of health.
And you just have to go to any coffee place where people can get takeaway coffees like I do every morning. You're standing in there, you're giving the card to the person, you're touching the cup from there, touching their cup. So, yeah, it's very, very crazy.
Look, the excuse they give, they don't want people moving around. But let's face it, you're driving a private car to a property where you don't have any contact with anybody. I mean, unless you're driving down the road tossing out virus bombs right, left and center, how on earth can the distance you travel make any difference? You're not infecting anybody at all, not possibly. Much less than going for a walk, which you're perfectly allowed to do. So where's the logic? Where's the sense? And of course, he flatly refuses to explain why. I've asked him many times for this question. I mean, okay, there's a simple answer. Premier, give it to us. Tell us exactly how. Show us the statistics. Show us the surveys. Show us the expert health advice. How can you, if he has all this information, why doesn't he share it?
Yeah, I think the lack of transparency with the data that's always being referred to or the findings is quite concerning. I don't know why that won't be done.
Yeah, he says, I listened to expert advice. Well, he had expert advice. He had expert advice from the Department of Health and Human Services, which was prepared very elaborately. There's about 8 pages of detailed information. At the top of it, right at the top, sole operators working alone. That is expert advice, carefully worked out. At a press conference a few days later, he says, no mowing, no gardening. Where's your expert advice, Premier? What did you change your mind at? I have challenged him again and again to explain, and he cannot give an explanation. So that means he doesn't have one. What happened is he just spoke up at the Premier. He blurted it out and said, look, if I back down, I might be seen as weak. Oh, yeah, I might save a few lives, but I might be seen as weak. Politically speaking, it was a very smart move. From a point of view of humanitarianism, it's pretty evil.
So for anyone watching, guys, make sure if you need people to hear this, click the share button, guys, to let Jim know, and they can jump on if they're an independent small trader as well, so they can find out more details later on how to join the claim. Robin's gone here. I wish we had a Jim's Handyman in Maitland. We would definitely have plenty of work. Absolutely, Jim's Handyman. We need more franchisees in that one. They can do a lot of stuff. The Malcolm Bradley tune on. Now here we go. Wendy Wright. Please, everyone, keep lobbying all MPs, both sides, Victorian and federal as well. The pressure from all sides will make a difference. Every time I get mad, I send an email to a group of politicians, even just one issue, not rude, just how's it impacting you? Although you might not get a reply to that one, they cannot ignore the volume of emails they are receiving.
That is true. That is the best thing you can do. Pass it around and pass it to your MPs.
Then Paul Stoney's gone. He won't answer questions. He is a master poly. Just watch how he uses the media. When he says a reporter's name, you can bet that news channel only uses that grab that night. Absolutely. Well, he's a master politician, as Jim's been saying, isn't he? So he knows that back and front. And Dave McDonald says the problem with the numbers is how many are within the healthcare, aged care, and essential services. The lockdown won't slow the spread in these places unless contract tracing is fixed and we can keep the virus out of the aged care system.
Yeah, you got the federal government coming in and saying, "Come on, let us help you. Let us help you. Let us help you." Victorian, look, I mean, the health workers that are working in the field, they are dedicated and brave people, but denied the resources, denied the leadership to do the job properly. It's shameful, and I don't want to denigrate anybody. I don't want to denigrate council gardeners either, too. That's very important. I don't object to them having a job. I really don't. I just think there shouldn't be a double standard.
Well, the aged care one's interesting. People, you can't blame the lady who has to work multiple shifts to support her family going from one place to another. And if she's got a runny nose, she's not going to go and get tested. And they should have counted for this stuff. I can't believe they didn't even have the foresight to think, what if people are working at multiple facilities and they get a little bit sick? They're not going to stop to get tested.
Yeah. I mean, it's pathetic. I know people who have to, they've been in contact with somebody infected and they have to lie to say they've got symptoms.
Correct.
To get tested. I mean, it's crazy. It's like you're knock $10 billion off the economy of the state, but you won't spend $10,000 giving proper resources to people who can make the situation better. It's incredible incompetence.
I think the best example of the incompetence is the funeral stuff. When Tobin Brothers, I think they put in 140 applications to have one extra person above the 10-person limit. And there was a 5-month baby got denied from her own father's funeral, right? And they had to go to Channel 7. And then once they ran the story in Channel 7, then the application got approved, which I just think was astounding. The Minty Wells gone here for something different. Jim, when you started mowing, do you remember when you first thought this was going to be successful? From Minty Wells. That's a change of direction, that one.
It took me a long time to figure it might work out, actually. I always thought my mowing lawns was just temporary until something better came along. I tried a lot of stuff too. I tried, I had a computer shop at one time. I had a mower repair shop. I tried to get a tourist venture going. I did all kinds of stuff, and it's just that the mowing thing just took off gradually until I thought, hey, this isn't too bad, this thing.
There you go, Minty. That's a great question. Thanks for that one. And changing the tune a bit, Eric Jerden's gone and says, Jim, you were right when you said that I was taking in $4,000 per week, and that was even in June this year during COVID. Best decision I ever made, starting with Jim's Mobile Cafe Victoria, once I found the right way to run it.
Yeah, that's right too. It took Eric quite a while to figure out, the special places on the side of the road, and he's got customers who actually know him, and so when they're coming up to him, they actually text him ahead, and he has their drink ready and this kind of stuff. He's got Eric's a very engaging guy, so you got to have the right personality for this job. But
you got to like people, that one. You can't not like people and do that. So
I wouldn't be good at it. I'm a bit rude. People don't like me, especially not the Premier too.
Oh yeah, definitely when we're giving him a good bit of coffee. Then a fam's gone here. Should we campaign to lower ex-MPs' pensions? No plan Dan is on $440K per annum and will get 67% of that index for the rest of his life. Yet he wouldn't even consider a pay cut. Considering he's caused financial hardship to, his now and future income are obscene. Good point, yes. Fam.
Yeah, there's a lot of difference between people who are on comfortable salaries, like politicians and bureaucrats and professionals, and they're generally the ones that tend to think, hey, who cares about little thing? You actually see things in the paper about how nice it is and how they don't have to travel anymore to commute and how it's quieter and greenhouse gases are down, all the positive things about it. Okay, there's a few negatives too, but it's pretty positive. But they don't think of the poor sods who are out there who've lost their jobs and lost their businesses and are suffering and stress and terrible.
I think the lack of empathy by people in those positions is astounding. No one's got. You need emotional intelligence to be a good leader, and none of them do have it.
Yeah, but it's also probably true, to be fair, that they don't know anybody. I mean, the Premier would not talk to small businesses. Maybe he'd go up and say, cup of coffee, or more likely get an aide to do it. He just doesn't have any contact with people like that. He doesn't talk to myself, who speak for tens of thousands. Do you think he'd ever talk to an independent contractor like a lawnmower or a cleaner or a pool? He wouldn't be in his universe. He's surrounded by minions who are probably surrounded by people themselves. They're cut off from real life in a way that's quite extraordinary. There's educated elites and powerful elites, and they really don't see much outside their own little bubble.
Well, where it will affect him, I know he's got a kid who goes to school. So I know they can't go physically to school, but I wouldn't want to be his son. I can tell you that right now at the moment. The Never's gone, hi, Joel. Jim seems to mainly refer to Jim's moving franchisees. What about all other divisions from Enver, and especially the divisions who work indoors as well? By the looks of it, other divisions won't get back to work for months. So Enver's from Jim's blind cleaning and repairs division.
Look, each division is going to have its own. He specifically mentioned gardeners, almost certainly because I've been hammering on the subject, but we're going to widen that wedge as much as possible to see who we can get into it. I would say people like pool care, fences, dog wash, lots of different divisions could be in that. Window cleaners on the outside, clearly the same thing. Now, as to getting inside the houses, well, but that depends too on when you're talking about on a site. If the house is empty, for example, you are alone on the site, which is often the case with our people. They have keys and they get in by themselves. So the thing is, nobody really knows what the guidelines are. They don't know them now. They won't know them then. But we'll push them as hard as we can. I can tell you, to get our people back to work if they can do so safely. I mean, we do take precautions. You know, our people will not go into houses with COVID infections, and they're very careful about not passing infected, being infected. But where it's safe and reasonable, then we'll certainly try and get them back into work again.
The key to that, Enver, is Jim's going to keep pushing and keep doing the media as much as possible and all the platforms he can do to keep pushing the case for everyone.
I think it's very important to recognise too that Jim's franchisees are probably better off than most people in the industry. For a start, they tend to make a lot more money. And also, we've got a system of mutual support and encouragement, you know, people ringing each other and franchisors talking and so forth. And there's even people in other states who volunteered to provide money and resources and counselling and all kinds of things. So our guys are badly off, but the ones I feel most sorry for, a lot of those independents, they're just really devastated by this, and they've just got nowhere to go, nowhere to turn.
Then Luke James gone, regional Victoria should be already back in stage 2, except for probably for Geelong, as the cases in regional Vic is close to non-existence, which is key, and he's still keeping them locked down. I feel sorry for regional Victoria at the moment. And Ben Wilson, Jim, do you think Murdoch is too powerful and has too much sway over public opinion based on his mass media ownership? From Ben Wilson.
No, I think Murdoch's great because in practice what you see is that the opposition to this thing is being led by News Corp. If you look at the left-wing papers, like the left-wing media, like the Age, the Sydney Morning Herald, the Fairfax Press, obviously the ABC, basically the extreme green left. If it wasn't for Murdoch, you'd have an overwhelmingly left-wing media. It's interesting. Everybody watched The Loudest Voice in the Room. It's about Roger Eyre, Airley or something, what his name is, the one who founded Fox Media. Okay. It was Murdoch money that did it. But one of the things that this guy recognized is that even though there were 3 existing cable channels, they were all way left of center. And he came up and said, but listen, most people aren't left of center. So they started up Fox Media, which actually had was run on a shoestring, relatively speaking. Well, not by our standards, but by standards of the other. They were spending like a third as much money as something like CNN, and they became the dominant force because they spoke for the people who weren't to the left. So I think the Murdoch papers actually. And I'm very appreciative of news.com.au, which is a bit of an ordinary site, actually. But they've the Murdoch press has actually been very good to us. So I'm a great fan of Rupert Murdoch.
Then Luco, thanks for that comment there, Ben. Then Luco Carroll's gone, Jim, do you think Dan Andrews could benefit from your world-altering drug? He displays certain traits that are undesirable. Surely with serious funding, we can turn this ship around. That's a very good comment there, Luke. If I had a book, I'd give it to you.
Yes. I don't think I could reform him, but if we were able to help people to have a more there's a problem going on in society, which is a change that I've identified in the biohistory books. We're moving away from the rule of law and of principle towards personal loyalties. And what you see with what's happening in Victoria has become incredibly more personal. And that is the kind of process that in the end leads from democracy to empire, as happened in the Roman Empire. It's the same kind of thing. Now, what my treatment would do is help people to resist that particular and be more likely to become ruled by principle and by law.
Vissa's gone, I have customers sending me photos of council workers mowing around and asking why I can't do mowing. I can imagine, Vissa, you'd have a lot of franchisees in a similar position. Then Steve Beck's gone, any chance we can have less nonsense questions and maybe more business franchise questions? A little bit overhearing about the Gyms A-League. I don't think the Gyms A-League's been on tonight, but any business questions, if anyone wants to put them in there, we'll answer them, guys. Let's just go on to more of the political stuff tonight.
We're very, very happy to. I love taking questions about things like biohistory or books or anything, history, anything at all, current affairs, anything at all. We'll talk about the things people ask, but honestly speaking, I love.
It's driven by the comments, so it's driven by the questions. Whatever you put in there, guys, we'll ask.
Put some different comments in, guys, and we'd love to answer them. And if you haven't got a choice to get more, pick the ones that are not to do with COVID and the crisis, if you possibly can.
That's it. Then Dina Majan's gone here as well. Okay. Hi, Joel and Jim. The fight against the Victor Premier is admirable, but do you think the delivery you're trying to get across could be less offensive? From Dina. I think she's from the Jim's Cleaning Group.
Yeah, some people think so. But one of the things, the points about it is we've got to get noticed. And you know, if I get up in public and say, well, I think Premier Dan's a wonderful human being, but perhaps he could think about doing things differently, nobody's going to listen, are they? So you've got to speak out, and you've got to speak out in fairly forceful terms, and that's what gets it. Now, it gets controversial, yes, but I can tell you the reaction, the overwhelming reaction that I get from all the media and stuff that we get is overwhelmingly positive. People are supportive. People are very angry, and I'm expressing that. And if I put it in a milder fashion, well, nobody will hear it anyway. No.
Yeah, and this is the thing people got to understand. You won't get the awareness if you're not polarizing or some opinionated. It's the only reason why it's getting national attention every week from Jim is because he's got a strong opinion. They'll keep coming to him.
You look at someone like Alan Jones. He doesn't get out there to be, or when he's now, or when he's off, of course, now, or he's on television, but he didn't get up that way by being mild and conciliatory and moderate and both sides of the issues. He expressed a viewpoint very forcefully and strongly, and he had a big listening audience. And I think you've got to make a point strongly to be heard. Look, I wouldn't have done this if I had got to the Premier. I would have been quite happy to lobby him directly, but because you can't reach the Premier. There's no way I could talk to the Premier. I'd love to talk to the Premier. I'd love to actually be able to negotiate and say to the Premier, listen, I don't want to cause trouble. If you let my people go back to work, I will work with you. I will support you. I'll put out a message of supporting you. I don't care what I say. I just want my people back to work. You know, if you need a big contribution to your party's coffers, I'll make it. I'll do whatever is necessary. All I want is my people to go back to work. But I can't reach the Premier. I can't reach people who can reach the Premier. We can't talk to them. The only way we can talk to the Premier is through the media.
Yeah, that's been proven. With the only way he's acknowledging you is when the reporters ask him a question in the thing. There's been no official response, and we'll keep doing the thing until you get a proper response. Kevin Horan's going, hi, Jim. Here we go. This is a tough one. Hi, Jim. Will there still be lots of leads coming after this is over, or will people won't use Jim's group?
I would like to make a very substantial bet with anybody who likes it that our leads will be way, way, way up over this. I've talked to PR people about it. And there is a saying that there's no such thing as bad publicity, because even bad publicity gets your name out there. But the great majority of the responses to us has been very, very positive. In PR terms, look, I don't want to make it wrong. I would 1,000 times wish this had never happened, and I really feel for the suffering of my franchisees in particular and other people out there who are hurting. But it's probably the best PR thing we've ever done, honestly, in terms of the attention, in terms of the positive impact, because I am seen by so many people as standing up for the little guy.
That's absolutely right. Well, I get a lot of the comments and the messages, and we send, Jim's getting a lot of messages from independent businesses, which franchisees wouldn't know about as well, aren't you, Jim? On a daily basis.
There are a lot of people who've actually said, we'll use you from now on. You know, thank you for what you're doing. I get this all the time. It takes me hours to clean my inbox today. I get frantic. I just keep on pouring in all the morning. I did in the morning sometimes just to try and get through them. And I always acknowledge them and I say, thank you on my phone, everything. I just get all these messages. Franchisees, mostly outsiders, just saying, thank you for standing up for us. You're standing up for somebody who's got no voice. I get this again and again and again and again. So I think those people are going to be tremendous in terms of goodwill. And to be quite honest too, a lot of people who appreciate us most are the independent operators. And one of the things I'm hoping down the track a bit, we're going to be able to attract some of them to come across into gyms and give them a lot more work to come out of this, give them free franchises and stuff. I think we should be. I don't see the independents as my enemies. I see them as we're on the same team, we're on the same side.
Yeah, I would add to people, don't get sucked into comment sections on Facebook and Twitter on news sites. They're probably the worst place in the world to live for negativity. So please don't.
If you want to get an idea, you go to a real left-wing site like The Guardian, and then you'll get that. But The Guardian appeals to well, if I said loony left, that's pretty offensive. But it appeals to that 10% of the population that is really hard left, greeny, Saint Andrews, don't cast any aspersions on him. That sort of people who just worship the Premier. You're going to get that sort of thing there. But if you did look to different media sites, if you had a look at, say, News Corp, for example, sites, you'll get a totally different viewpoint. So it depends where you're at. But on the whole, most social media is strongly our way.
And John Famos has gone, good evening. Don't you wish you had Dan's supercomputer? LOL. Apparently he's got a supercomputer in the background running these algorithms and projections and everything else.
If he had a supercomputer, he might be able to explain why he makes the decisions in a way that wouldn't be so overtly political.
Then Milan's gone here, Jim, a question to ask if you would help me in how could I put a template blueprint to expand in other areas I'm looking into doing that is different to what you do. What you and your team be keen to help at all, Milan? We've got to know what your business is, I guess, what you're doing.
If you've got a business that you want to grow, you can come to us and talk about it and we'll give you advice on it. You can actually come if you wish and you can do franchisee training and franchisor training, have all of our manuals, all of our systems shown to you, and then go off and start your own thing. It's quite allowed. We have no control.
It's happened before with the New Zealand dance thing, I think, remember?
Yeah, I know. She actually emailed me after all this. I got to know pretty well during the training. And she said, congratulations, I've just signed my first franchisee. And I said, I didn't think you joined us. He said, no, I didn't. I'm just independent. But she was. So I said, good luck to you.
They're all about transparency. So please send through some details or come along.
Come and learn from us. You can learn everything. You get a whole copy of my book and learn how I did it. You can have a look at our contracts. We really don't hide anything. I'm not being entirely altruistic about it, because what we tend to find is that once people look at our system and everything that we do, they tend to want to come through us, and usually that's what happens. But we don't insist on it. And I would say if you really want to start an independent system, then learning from us is the best thing you could possibly do.
The Muzz has gone to Jim for PM, which get a heap of them. Eric Jurgens, I would even sell Daniel Andrews a coffee. Come on, Eric.
I hope you would. I don't want to demonize anybody. I mean, I say pretty harsh things about him, but I wouldn't punch him in the face even if I could get away with it.
Paul Stoney says, put all the pollies and public servants on $750 a week until the place is open.
Yes!
The virus will be over. Absolutely, Paul. That's a very good comment. The Nathan Fogey's gone here. Jim, you indicated this big event of a legal stash, but the gyms group would not be involved. Would it not be affecting your income given your franchise, so are not receiving your royalties and still have bills to pay? Question mark.
I don't know what that means. What is he saying?
So it says you've indicated this big event. So you're saying you've incited this big event of the legal stash, but the gyms group would not be involved. Would it not be affecting your income given that your franchisees are not receiving any income to pay your royalties and still have bills? That's from Nathan.
Well, what we're doing is actually, and this is going to be on our Facebook feed.
After this,
we're going to be showing you. I've got lawyers to work out exactly how to appeal for compensation, and then how to appeal to VCAT if and when you're rejected. I don't make any money out of that too. I won't get any fees, but if my franchisees could get income for the time they've lost, that would be fantastic, even though I wouldn't make a cent out of it. It's costing me money. I'm not quite sure I understand what you're saying though, because I mean realistically too, it's not the money we're losing isn't all that significant. I mean my income is down a bit, but we're not shedding staff en masse. We're not unable to buy food. We're not threatened with eviction. We're a big company. We're comfortable. The people I feel sorry for are the people who just basically on the breadline, who are really, really suffering badly psychologically and financially. I think they're the ones you've got to keep your eye on. Look, frankly, if I could get a deal tomorrow and where I figured out how much money I would make, I'm losing per week, and I give that to the Labor Party to say, if you'll let them go back to work, you can have all the profit I would make, I'd very happily do it, or give it to some charity or something. I really would. It's fairly minor by comparison. The thing that hurts me is not our loss, it's the loss of the people that I am in contact with, and I get terrible stories every day.
And David McDonald says,
that's an open offer. If anybody knows the Premier and can get word to him, there's an offer there. You can have all the profit that I would make if you'll just let my people go back to work early. I'm not in it to get money. I'm in it to get my people working again.
David McDonald says, if antennas can go in and fix for a TV outlet, then why can't you clean a house? Which is a good point, because the antennas guys I know can do that.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah. The Sharon's tuning, which is fantastic. Then David McDonald says, I did a job today that we quoted 4 weeks ago. The tenant got sick and we had to wait for her to get better. I can't risk catching the flu. Well, that's a good point there, David, as well.
No, and nor should you. And just because I say that there's risks of shutting down doesn't mean to say it isn't a problem, especially for people on poor health.
And Ben Wilson's gone, yes, The Age and the SMH, the Sydney Morning Herald, run by notorious lefty, former Liberal treasurer Peter Costello, from Ben Wilson on one of the comments.
I challenge anybody to pick up The Age or the Sydney Morning Herald and say this is a right-wing paper. Come on. Have a look at what it says. Compare it with, you'll find it's a lot closer to the hard left like the ABC than it is to someone like the Australian or news.com. Come on. I mean, it's obvious. You look at any issue at all and you look and they're very, very much in the same area.
And then we got a few comments here. So then we got one from Nathan again. It says, would your real estate group consider a person who has more than 15 years experience to run a property management business without a driver's license due to an eye condition?
Yeah, why not? I mean, depends how you get around and what you need, whether you need to get around. But property management doesn't necessarily mean you've got to go anywhere. You can do an awful lot for yourself. I mean, our franchisors really don't need to travel very much at all. So sure, just look at what you're going to be doing. I actually think in terms of real estate, property management is a much better bet for us than selling houses as such. And that's something that you can do from home office.
And Peter Wolseley's gone, Alan Jones is also the biggest flog going around. So there's a few people not liking Alan Jones on here. He's a bit of a character, Alan Jones.
Well, he is. I don't like some of the things he said either. He makes some very offensive comments at times. I'm not saying I don't listen to it. Talk radio anyway, but I'm not saying he's a saint. What I'm pointing out is that you don't get attention by being sweet and mild and conciliatory.
You got to be polarizing.
That's the only point.
Yeah, you got to be polarizing there, Peter. Then Eric Jurgens says, Jim, what division do you think is going to be the next big thing? Question mark from Eric Jurgens.
There's a lot. I tell you what, we're doing some things with fencing now that are going to really take it off. It's been it was 8 weeks and like $9,500. We reckon we can get people started doing. For a one-day course, Colorbond, yeah, that's a very exciting venture. It's going to take the cost down. It's going to take the time down, and since it's about 60% unserviced, I mean, we've got about 120 fences. We could have 1,000 fences. That's a fantastically potential business. There are so many great businesses out there, though. I mean, Dogwash has got about 130 now. I mean, why can't they have 500? There's so many dogs in the country. I mean, most divisions could be so much bigger.
Then Jim's Dogwash and Grooming says, Jenny Nevins at this stage, they look like they're going to go back at 28th of September. That's from Jim's Dogwash official page, which is fantastic. Let's hope so that's the case.
Well, that's how we interpret it, because it's an outside service and you don't have contact with people. The only time you might have a contact is when you take the dog, but you can do that in a way you don't have to touch anybody. You can have the dog tied up and then you go and pick it up and stuff. There's no reason to come within 5 meters of anybody in any of these jobs. So they're very, very, very safe.
Absolutely. Then Kevin Horan's gone here. Should we be telling people how much franchisees make? From Kevin.
Well, we never ask individual franchisees how much they make. I'm sure they're all completely honest and would never hide anything from the taxman, but still, we never ask them. But we do know that most franchisees probably do $2,000 to $3,000 a week. Some not as much, and some a heck of a lot more.
Absolutely. Then Brad Shee's gone here. Shout out to Belinda Hadley, Sharon Connell and Alana. Thank you for a successful, great first day at Jim's Dogwash, Wavell Heights. You are all amazing in preparation and support. Thank you for showing me it's never too late to change your career and start working for yourself. How about that for a testimonial on Ask Jim? That's fantastic. First day.
One of my favorite jobs is talking to our veterans, like 10, 15, 20, 25 years, and just asking about it. And so many of them just say, this is such a wonderful lifestyle. I'm so glad I did it. But it's very uplifting. negatives, but then you get these positives and saying how great it's been for them and how they see their kids growing up and better for their family and independence and flexibility and all these things. I love those calls.
It's never too late. We had a franchisee start at, I think he was 68, Ian, 67. So it's never too late.
And he said he made more money mowing lawns in his 70s than he ever had as a manager with Bunnings.
Yes, he did. He did. And he wished he started a lot sooner.
But he's a real workaholic, that guy, Ian. He's an amazing character. We've got a video.
I don't think he can. I don't think he's gone into retirement, Ian. I reckon he'll still be doing a lot of work. And Dave McDonald says, Jim, are you left, right, or do you have your own mind that evaluates the situation and can come up with your own outcomes? Question mark.
I'm very all over the place, because if you look at some views like on global warming and stuff, I'm very much in favor of a carbon tax. And I think the gap between rich and poor is vastly too wide, and there's a lot of things that could be done to reduce that, like things like wealth taxes and property taxes and so forth. So in some senses, I'm very, very much on the left, and others I'm on the right, like Christian morality, for example, and things like individual independence, small business, this kind of stuff too. So yeah, I don't even vote the same way consistently. It's interesting. You think I was a hard righty because I have a go at the Premier, but you know, I thought Bob Hawke was a wonderful PM, and he was Labor union guy, but he's a wonderful guy. I would rather vote by the issues, and you know, if the government upsets me, if Liberal government wants to invade Iraq, and I think it's a stupid idea, I'll vote Labor. I mean, yeah. I
think that's good to point out, because people keep trying to pigeonhole you within Liberal online, and they keep turning it into that argument when it's clearly not.
Yeah, I know. Conservatives, they abuse me. They say, I mean, how can you be a conservative and you still reckon we should, you know, curb carbon emissions? And I say, well, that's just science, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, that's pretty important to point out. It's not a political thing. This would be, Jim would be doing the same position regardless of the political party for the Premier.
Oh, absolutely.
And Jordan's gone here. Jim, I'm an independent. Just want to say a big thank you to you. So that's from Jordan as well, from Independent, which is fantastic.
Thanks
as well.
Jordan.
Really nice. And then Luca Carroll, thanks for the response, Jim. One final query: why do you think some people's are less productive than other people's? It's a good question.
Yeah, well, I think it's epigenetics. It's to do with the way your genes are turned on or off, and it has certain quite dramatic effects, which is why countries become rich and then become poor, and why some people's are more than others. And one of the things we're going to be doing in the next couple of years is to actually identify the epigenetic markers of that. And I would expect to be able to actually do a epigenetic test, which would predict with a fair degree of accuracy how successful a person is likely to be in their life. But obviously, of course, what we would really like to do is to work out a way of giving them the ability to be the kind of person they'd like to be, like develop a better work ethic, or be able to resist temptations like drugs and alcohol and this kind of thing. I think we can help people a lot once we understand the epigenetics better.
The Milan's going, Jim, thank you. And where can I get in contact with you or your team to do the training? Or where can I pay to get the info books to see what can help me as an independent sole trader willing to expand when the time is ready and I have all the knowledge that I need?
Just email me, jim@jims.net, and I'll put you on it. I have a lot of emails, but I'm quite easy to contact.
There we go. Then Dave McDonald says, Jim, what about Jim's internet? Compete against the NBN. I know a guy. Jim's internet. Well, I don't know. I don't know how big that one is.
I like competing against smaller people, I have to say. I would never take on McDonald's or anybody like that. We do pretty well where we're at. We understand our own industry quite well.
And Nathan's gone, Jim's Mars. We did have Jim's Mars, Nathan, on the way. But we can't just, I don't know, they're at Jim's house maybe. I don't know, we can't haven't been able to deliver them.
Oh yeah, here's one.
Is that the one?
Yeah, Jim's Mars.
There we go. There.
How do I put it on?
Is that the Jim's branded one, or is that your own one?
It's Jim's branded. Can
cool.
You see it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, on the. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So that's the Jim's branded ones. Yeah, we had them ordered, but we can't. They're at Jim's house. We can't put them on the shop yet because we can't post them.
Yeah, I've got a few here. I don't know what I can do with them, but yeah.
Well, once we can get in and post them, we'll start posting them again. And then Nathan's gone, would you allow Dan Andrews to be a franchisee? That's a good question.
No. Because, no, not because I've got any prejudice, but because he'd fail. Yeah. I don't think he'd have the skills to do it. I honestly think I would never sell a franchise to somebody that I believe would fail. And I don't think he would succeed. Of course, he would never want to. I mean, but he wouldn't have the right skills.
And Ember's gone, Daniel just says, made terrible decisions, and thanks to him, we are in this terrible lockdown. Now he seems to be keen on destroying all small businesses. Clearly, he's incapable of managing a pandemic. Just look at the other states in the same country, which is a fair point as well. Okay, and then David,
it's also important too that we don't get too political about this. There are some very fine Labor leaders in this country. I don't have any problem with any of them. I don't really think there's much difference apart from Victoria. And as Joel was saying before, it's not so much whether he's Labor or Liberal. He's not very competent, and he's crushing the economy without any reason, and he's doing the whole thing very poorly. That's nothing to do with the party. There are a lot of really great people in the Labor Party, people that I greatly admire. So it's not politics, it's competence, and it's fairness, and it's justice, and it's the rule of law. That's the issues. Let's not get sidetracked.
That's a good point, Jim. And then Dave McDonald says, do you think the asteroid will hit? I don't know if you saw the news about this asteroid on target for Earth. Just to top things off in 2020.
Well, I don't think it's particularly danger. I mean, one of the great things about our systems, we could possibly do something about a dinosaur killer if it came, but I don't think there's anything that big really a danger to us right now. They've actually tracked all the major. They've got a fairly good idea of what's out there, so it's not going to be hitting us at quite at random.
That's 2020, David. So, who knows what could happen in 2020 still. This is a bit too go.
I think there's a lot more serious dangers than that. And there's a lot of things that could go wrong. I mean, look, let's face it. This thing has been pretty bad, but it's only less than 1% mortality. What happens if you got a disease that had 10% mortality? Like it was, or 40% like SARS, but wildly infectious. I mean, there's very bad dangers. What happens if you got some sort of a attack that took down the electricity grid? What about an EMP that would fry the electrical systems and computers? You're not quite sure how bad it would be, but there's terrible things that could happen. There's things that could happen that could wipe out 95% of the population very quickly. We're so dependent on things these days. There's a lot of very big causes for concern out there. I mean, one of the weirdest things about this epidemic is it actually possibly might be beneficial to us, because if a really serious disease came up in a few years' time, we'd have some notion about how to treat it and how to find a vaccine faster and what controls to put in place. We'd have the experience. So, but who knows? I think the world is very uncertain, much more uncertain than people think.
And Pete Purse has gone, hey Jim, would you ever consider turning your franchises into an international movement? Also, the Premier probably isn't responding to your letters because he only has artificial plants in his yard and doesn't actually understand the significance gardeners play in society.
Well, he's got a very, very immaculately beautiful lawn. I've seen a picture of it, so I think.
Have you really? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. He must get it cut every 3 days from the look of it.
Well, we've heard that his mum
of course,
that's
important. That's important public health. So, absolutely important. If the Premier's lawn got to be more than 1 centimetre high, that would be an extreme danger. Pensioners, who cares? But the Premier, public health, very important.
We got an email saying that his mum uses the Jim's mowing franchise up in Wangaratta. So I don't know if that's the case or not.
Good luck to her. I don't want to use that as I don't want to use that as some sort of lever against him. It shows his mother's got good sense. I mean, really.
Very, very true. Good point. Then Peter Woolsey's gone, Jim, do you follow the lads over at SpaceX? What they are doing over there is amazing. Are you into the whole commercial crew program? Jim's could send something up. LOL.
Well, I love what Elon Musk is doing. I think SpaceX is fantastic. They're actually building rockets to launch into space for a fraction of the cost of what anybody else has done. There's a wonderful Ashley Vance's biography, which is a wonderful, wonderful book about how he's done that and the way he draws these brilliant engineers and innovative people into place. It's a fantastic story. I mean, it's governments just can't spend the money they used to. Like to get to the moon, they use something like 40% of US government revenue, some incredible amount of money. I'm probably exaggerating, but the governments won't do that these days, but private people could. And if you can ever make space exploration pay, I mean, what would be great is if you had a expedition to Mars, which was paid for by like a Big Brother thing. You have cameras and you sell sponsorship rights. How would that be? All paid for by media. So I think it's exciting, actually. I really do. The potential for technology is extraordinary. We could do brilliant things with it. I don't think we've got any idea of how how great it could be, particularly if we understood the technology of epigenetics too, and we could look at changes to character as well. If we do that, the universe is our backyard. It'd be extraordinary.
And what about the book club, Jim? What have you been listening to this week?
Well, the one I mentioned last week was Factfulness.
Factfulness.
Factfulness. There is a quiz at the beginning of Factfulness which answers, I think, 12 questions. It gives 3 answers, A, B, C, and you've got to actually do the test. It answers questions like, what proportion of people, what's happened to the number of people living in poverty in the last 20 years? Has it gone up, stayed the same, gone down? And so there's 12 questions like that. And the really interesting thing about it is that most people do far worse than chimpanzees do. Because if you gave a chimpanzee 3 bananas with 3 options, about 1 time in 3, they pick the right answer. Most people do worse than chimpanzees. They give terrible, terrible answers. So it's a fascinating book. Get Factfulness. You can get it from Amazon. You can download it. See how well you do with that quiz. It's really great. And the other book I'm reading actually I've just finished that. I'm reading Blood and Oil, which is about Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, yeah.
Really interesting about how he did what he did and what the politics of the whole thing are.
Interesting country, Saudi Arabia. My dad lived there for 8 years in Riyadh, and I heard some very interesting things about that place.
And what's happened and how he's managing it it's fascinating. This was a guy who actually he dreamed of being something like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. That was his kind of idea when he was younger, and he's actually just as rich as them now. But he's done it through getting the money from the oil and stuff.
Oil, yeah, the oil, and then they do the big public investment group. So you've got the Qatari investment group and you've got the Saudi investment group, and they invest in everything around the world, which is quite interesting.
Very, very interesting character.
So what we'll do there is, Jim, we'll post everything. I'm going to get off this and post everything and shut up now and post everything online. So thanks for everyone who left all the comments and questions, and thanks for your time tonight, Jim, and doing all the media during the week and obviously fighting the fight for everyone. And there's going to be more media hopefully coming up, so people please stay tuned. And have you got any messages before we sign off for tonight, Jim?
No, I'll just say for next week, try and give me some questions about something else. I don't mind talking about this, but I do talk about it a lot. I love questions about history, current affairs, and those kind of things as well. Science, anything.
Well, there's our challenge for everyone there next week. And what I'll do is all those questions we'll start doing the books. I'll make a list. I promise you I'll keep it. So make sure next week come with some really good hard-hitting questions on that stuff for Jim. And then we'll go from there. We always give the book prizes for the unorthodox questions if we can. The ones that are a bit outside the... So we like those. I'll make a list and we can do some more. So we'll leave it there, guys. All right. Thanks for that, Jim. Yeah. Thanks, guys. See you.